to at least put 2 of these in your car, please. Alright, so, this guy.
2 haunting stories. A straight-A student who vanishes into the darkness of a North Carolina night, and in New Jersey, a series of murders that leave a community terrified and a family shattered. We begin with a young man whose life seemed to be mapped out for success. 22-year-old Cole Thomas was the kind of son most parents dream about. Clean-cut, polite, athletic. He had a scholarship to the University of Florida. He had a tight-knit family who described themselves as huggy. He had a girlfriend who adored him, and he had no real criminal record to speak of. Maybe a speeding ticket, nothing more. But somewhere between Minnesota and North Carolina, something went terribly wrong. Cole had recently taken a break from college. He wanted to try something different, to work with his hands, to apprentice as an electrician. He moved to Pine Island, Minnesota, to work alongside a friend. His parents weren't thrilled about him leaving school so close to graduation, but they supported him. They believed in his independence. The choice had seemed exciting at first. Cole had grown tired of sitting in classrooms, tired of theory and textbooks. He wanted real-world experience, the kind you couldn't get from lectures. He spoke often of wanting to build something, to feel the satisfaction of a day's work in his muscles and calloused hands. His father had smiled when he talked about circuits and wires. His mother had nodded encouragingly, though both of them hid a quiet worry about what might happen once he left home. He kept in touch. He called his aunt. He texted his father on Thanksgiving morning. "Happy Thanksgiving. I love you, Dad." His father texted back, "I love you too." It was a simple message, easy to take for granted, filled with the kind of warmth that families exchange every holiday. It should have been just another message between loved ones, a routine back and forth that happens year after year. But that message would be one of the last messages Cole ever sent. After that morning, the communication slowed. A missed call here, a text that went unanswered there. At first, his parents assumed he was busy with work or taking time to relax after the holiday. They didn't worry. It wasn't unusual for a young man immersed in a new life to get caught up with the day. They told themselves that he'd respond soon enough. Days passed without a reply, then a week. Calls went straight to voicemail, texts lingered unread. And when he did, his voice was strained and unsure. "I haven't seen him," he said, almost under his breath. The silence was crushing to those who loved him. His parents retraced every conversation they'd had with him, every memory they shared, trying to find some hint of a reason for the sudden disappearance of their son's presence. They stared at his last text message on their screens, replaying it in their minds, holding on to the last words he ever sent, as if those simple lines could somehow explain the silence that followed. Early that Thanksgiving morning, Cole reportedly volunteered to help drive 2 co-workers more than 1,100 miles south to Durham, North Carolina. A 17-hour road trip, a long stretch of interstate and small towns, of coffee stops and gas stations, of hours spent behind the wheel in the company of people he barely knew. His family didn't know about it. His girlfriend didn't know about it. No one back home knew he was on the road, leaving behind the familiar comfort of Pine Island, Minnesota, and the routine of his life there. It was a spontaneous decision, one that seemed helpful, generous, and in line with the independent streak that had driven him to take a break from college in the first place. The 2 men he traveled with? Jeremy Carpenter and Julian Valdez. Cole had only known them for a few weeks, just enough time for casual conversations, for shared laughs over work, for acquaintanceship, but not enough for anyone to truly know the depth of his life, his plans, his fears, or his routines. In the scope of a long road trip, they were companions, strangers bound together by a shared destination, interspersed with moments of sleep, with pit stops, with hurried meals and caffeine-fueled conversations to stay awake. It was a long haul, demanding attention, focus, and endurance. For someone like Cole, who had sought new experiences and challenges, but beneath the surface, it was also a decision that placed him in the company of relative strangers, far from those who truly cared for him. Late Thanksgiving night, surveillance cameras inside a convenience store in Mount Olive, North Carolina, captured one of the last known images of Cole Thomas. He's standing there in the store, alive, upright, appearing normal. There's no sign of distress, no hint that anything had gone wrong. He is simply there, caught in a frozen frame of motionless time, a final snapshot before the unknown. And then, nothing. No messages, no phone calls, no sightings. The trail goes cold, leaving only questions and growing worry for those who loved him, for the family and friends who had no idea where he had gone that morning, and who could only replay those last known images over and over, searching for answers that may never come. 3 days later, Cole's on-again, off-again girlfriend received a chilling message on Facebook from a mutual friend. The words were short, abrupt, and horrifying in their implication. "Cole's missing, and we think he's dead." Her heart dropped as she read the message over and over, each repetition tightening the knot of fear in her chest. She stared at the screen, unwilling to believe what she was reading, yet unable to ignore the reality of it. The words seemed impossible, surreal, as though they were plucked from a nightmare she hadn't yet woken from. Moments later, Cole's family got a call from police in Benson, North Carolina. Their son was listed as a missing person. Hearing the words spoken aloud, hearing the official confirmation from authorities, was like a punch to the gut. The abstract fear that had lingered since Thanksgiving morning became concrete in an instant, unrelenting and terrifying. Their minds raced, grasping at fragments of what they knew, trying to piece together the timeline, to find some clue that might explain how a young man, full of life and plans, had disappeared so completely. The story they were told made no sense. Pieces of information were scattered and confusing. The long road trip, the unfamiliar companions, the last known sightings, nothing fit neatly together. Questions outnumbered answers. How could someone so careful, so communicative, just vanish? How could a trip that started with a simple act of helping colleagues turn into an unfathomable mystery? The police spoke in measured tones, careful not to give false hope, careful not to speculate beyond the facts they had. But even those facts seemed contradictory. Cole's parents replayed every conversation, every interaction, every call and text, looking for something they might have missed. They remembered the Thanksgiving morning message. "Happy Thanksgiving, I love you, Dad." The simplicity of it, the normalcy of it, became almost unbearable. It was one of the last connections they had with him, a thread that now tied to a terrifying unknown. They thought back to his time in Minnesota, the choice to step away from college, the small joys he had spoken of, working with his hands, learning a trade, experiencing independence. All of it seemed so ordinary in hindsight, yet it led him into a situation no one could have predicted. In those early hours after the call, grief and confusion mingled with disbelief. Friends and family scrambled to contact authorities to piece together his last movements, to try to understand the unimaginable. Social media buzzed with speculation and concern, each post amplifying the sense of urgency, the need for answers. But no matter how many messages were sent, calls made, or inquiries pressed, the story remained fractured. Cole Thomas was missing, and with each passing hour, the sense of dread deepened. According to Jeremy and Julian, sometime between 1 and 3 a.m. the morning after Thanksgiving, Cole had a panic attack, jumped out of the car, and ran off into the night. Just disappeared. Every passing hour felt like an eternity. Their minds raced through every possible scenario, imagining every dangerous turn of events, every misstep that could have led to catastrophe. By the time they arrived, exhaustion mingled with panic. Yet there was no time for rest. They needed answers, and they needed them immediately. They walked into the Benson Police Department at 3 a.m., faces drawn and voices urgent. The fluorescent lights of the station did little to ease the tension in the air. Their questions were rapid-fire, overlapping, and desperate. Where had he gone? Had anyone seen him? Was he hurt? Every second without a clear answer felt like another mile between them and their child. They were pleading for guidance, for clarity, for anything that could point them toward Cole. The explanation they received was simple. Too simple. "He got out of the car and took off," the officers said. There was no elaboration, no elaborated timeline, no reassurance that he would be found. Just those few words, delivered as if they were all that could be said. And yet, that simplicity was precisely what made it so horrifying. It didn't make sense. It didn't align with the kind of person Cole was, careful, responsible, and deliberate. The narrative seemed almost impossibly incomplete, leaving gaping holes that swallowed any attempt at comprehension. But surveillance footage would soon complicate that narrative. The story that Jeremy and Julian told, the story that seemed to explain everything in one sentence, was about to be challenged. Cameras had captured movements, locations, and details that didn't match the simple version. The footage promised to reveal a timeline that was far more complex, far more troubling, and far less understandable than anyone had imagined. What had been dismissed as a spontaneous panic and disappearance now hinted at mysteries no one had anticipated, a reality that would only deepen the fear and uncertainty surrounding Cole Thomas. Cole's father, Chris Thomas, began his own investigation. He spoke directly with Jeremy Carpenter, and what Jeremy allegedly told him was far more disturbing. This wasn't just a Thanksgiving visit. According to Jeremy, Julian had traveled to North Carolina to purchase drugs, specifically methamphetamine. Court records show that Julian had previously faced serious drug charges in Florida years earlier, though those charges were dropped. Now Chris Thomas had a terrifying question. Had his son been unknowingly dragged into a drug run? Jeremy reportedly told Chris that when they arrived in North Carolina, they were strip searched before the drug transaction, to make sure no one was wearing a wire or carrying weapons. Cole, allegedly shaken by the situation, wanted no part of it. After the purchase, tension filled the car. Jeremy said Cole's hands were trembling on the steering wheel. He thought someone was following them. Maybe the dealers, maybe the police. Julian sat in the back seat holding the drugs. Jeremy allegedly grabbed the drugs and threw them out the window, fearing they'd go to jail if caught. Then they pulled into Benson. Jeremy claimed he and Cole got out of the car and started walking, leaving Julian behind. Surveillance cameras captured two men walking through town shortly after 1 a.m. Chris Thomas identified one of them as his son. It's the last known image of Cole Thomas alive. According to Jeremy's account, they stopped near a church. Cole needed to use the bathroom. Jeremy said he went behind the church to pray because he had just thrown out drugs. Pray because these aren't good people. When he returned, Cole was gone. Jeremy started walking back toward the car. 5 minutes later, he said he heard 2 gunshots. "I hope that's not what I think it was," he allegedly told Chris. What did he think it was? Maybe somebody shot Cole. Jeremy then returned to the car. Julian was angry, and according to Chris, Jeremy told him something chilling. "If my boys would have seen you out here, it wouldn't have been good." No body has ever been found. No confirmed suspects have been named. Captain Greg Percy of the Benson Police Department has stated that both Jeremy and Julian were extensively interviewed and have been cooperative. No charges have been filed in connection to Cole's disappearance. But 5 months passed. Then more. No bank activity, no phone activity, no social media, no calls, nothing. Cole Thomas, a young man who loved his family, who stayed in constant contact, vanished without a trace. His father has only one request. Somebody please tell me where he's at. Without a body, there's still hope. But hope grows thinner with each passing year. And as that family continues to search rural fields and wooded areas in North Carolina, hundreds of miles away in New Jersey, another family faces a different kind of nightmare. One with a body, but still so many unanswered questions. Deep inside the wooded trails of Eagle Rock Reservation, hikers made a gruesome discovery. The strangled body of 20-year-old Sarah Butler lay buried beneath leaves and debris. Sarah was vibrant, a dancer, a college student at New Jersey City University, a lifeguard working her way through school. She had performed at the legendary Apollo Theater in Harlem. Her father would stand on the corner when she walked to dance class, watching until she safely came out. 2 days before Thanksgiving, Sarah told her mother she was going out to say goodbye to a friend. She never came home. Her mother called. No answer. Hours passed, then days. The community mobilized. Friends, family, volunteers. They searched everywhere. More than a week later, Sarah's body was found in the woods. She had been strangled. As her parents struggled to comprehend their loss, 2 more young women were found murdered nearby. Joanne Brown, also strangled. Robin West, her body so badly burned it took weeks to identify her. Fear gripped the community. Were they dealing with a serial killer? Police arrested 20-year-old Khalil Wheeler-Weaver, a grocery store security guard with no prior murder convictions and a family that included law enforcement officers. On the surface, he seemed ordinary, a young man working a steady job, living a routine life, connected to a family familiar with rules, discipline, and the law. That facade, however, would soon be shattered as investigators uncovered a far darker side, one that would shock the community and cast a chilling shadow over every interaction he had ever had. If convicted, Wheeler-Weaver would be one of the youngest serial killers in the region since David Berkowitz terrorized New York in the 1970s. The comparison was not made lightly. Law enforcement and prosecutors noted the disturbing pattern of his alleged crimes, the calculated way he selected victims, and the audacity with which he allegedly carried out his attacks. There was an element of horror in realizing that someone so young could orchestrate such violence, hiding in plain sight while leaving families and communities in fear and confusion. Prosecutors alleged that Wheeler-Weaver targeted young women he met online or through social connections. These were women who trusted the world around them, who didn't anticipate danger from someone they considered a friend or a casual acquaintance. The allegations painted a picture of predation that was both methodical and opportunistic. He reportedly used technology to identify potential victims, to lure them into situations where he could exert control, and to manipulate the narrative in ways that kept him out of immediate suspicion. Cell phone records reportedly placed him near key locations connected to the victims. Each ping, each traceable movement, each time-stamped location added pieces to a puzzle that investigators were painstakingly assembling. The technology that often seems abstract or impersonal became a crucial tool in connecting Wheeler-Weaver to the crimes, allowing authorities to construct timelines and linkages that would otherwise have remained hidden. One surviving woman told police she managed to escape after an encounter with him. Her account, though terrifying and harrowing, became a critical part of the case against him. Her bravery in coming forward provided insight into the methods he allegedly used and demonstrated the narrow margins between life and death in situations he orchestrated. Her story, combined with evidence and the accounts of families searching for missing loved ones, began to form a portrait of a predator whose public persona masked a deeply dangerous private reality. As the investigation unfolded, the arrest of Khalil Wheeler-Weaver sent shockwaves through the community. Neighbors, friends, and families struggled to reconcile the image of a young man embedded in ordinary life with the horrifying crimes alleged against him. Every revelation deepened the mystery, intensified the fear, and raised urgent questions about safety, trust, and the unseen dangers that can exist even in familiar places. Wheeler-Weaver pleaded not guilty. In court, Sarah's father erupted in anguish. "Why you do that?" For the Butler family, justice will never mean healing. It will never bring Sarah back. It will never replace the laughter, the dance recitals, the quiet, sisterly conversations. But it may bring answers. And answers are what every family in these stories is chasing. In North Carolina, a father searches for a son who stepped out of a car and into darkness. In New Jersey, parents sit in courtrooms staring at the face of the man accused of stealing their daughter's future. Two different mysteries, two different paths, but the same relentless question: what really happened? If you have information on the disappearance of Cole Thomas, contact the Benson Police Department, because somewhere, someone knows more than they're saying. And until that truth comes to light, families will continue to wait, and we will continue to ask the questions.